Hi, this is the COVID-19 and Sense of Smell study by Amanda Manick, Aidan Earle, Anna Faust, Christina Lambert, Alexis Osorio, and Kayla Sanchez, with help from Holly Pelnar and Dr. Cameron. Dr. Cameron came up with this project after hearing within the olfaction community about connections being made between loss of sense of smell and COVID-19, followed by studies making a stronger case, the CDC and WHO adding loss of smell as a symptom of COVID-19, and finally, this study. This endeavor has not only been a study for the seminar class, but it has also been part of a larger effort by the Carthage community to implement measures to keep everyone safe, otherwise known as #StaySafeCarthage. Next.
Okay, so COVID is the main thing we're looking at in this study. So it first appeared in the Hubei province of China in late 2019. It was officially declared as a pandemic as of March 11th, 2020 by the World Health Organization. So SARS-CoV-2 is the virus that's responsible for the COVID-19 disease. So common symptoms include cold and flu-like symptoms, shortness of breath, gastrointestinal distress, fever, and loss of sense of smell. So the virus attacks the ACE2 and TMPRSS2 proteins, causing inflammation and neuroreceptor dysfunction. So various tissues and organ systems throughout the body do include these proteins, including the central nervous system, gastrointestinal system, heart, lung, testes, kidney, and nose. Next.
Now, because this study looks into loss of smell, it is important to understand how smell works. Smell isn't only responsible for identifying basic odors, it also helps to detect odors that can be potentially dangerous to us, such as gasoline or smoke. As a result, I will quickly run through how smell works. Smell molecules called odorants travel up the nasal cavity and attach to a mucous membrane called the olfactory epithelium, where they are caught by small, hair-like structures called cilia. The odorants are processed through the olfactory sensory neurons, carried through the epithelium with the help of supporting cells, and deciphered by the basal cells. The odorants then pass through the bony cribriform plate and are processed fully through the limbic system in the brain. Many experts, including a research team from Harvard, believe that the coronavirus attacks the supporting cells and the basal cells, where the ACE2 and TMPRSS2 proteins are located, making it much more difficult for the odorants to travel through the olfactory epithelium and process through the limbic system. Next.
At the beginning of the outbreak, smell loss had not yet been determined to be a symptom of COVID-19. Anecdotal reports of smell loss in those with COVID-19 began early in March in healthcare settings. Numerous studies have since shown that many of those with COVID-19 self-report smell loss. In some studies, one of the first being Moen et al. In 2020, empirical smell testing showed that those with COVID-19 displayed significant smell loss, also known as anosmia and microsmia. Anosmia is the complete loss of smell, while microsmia is only partial smell loss. Moen et al. Also showed that individuals displayed smell loss often much greater than they self-reported experiencing smell loss, providing evidence that people are not often good judges of their own sense of smell. Many of us are likely familiar with the image on the right here displaying the #StaySafeCarthage daily check-in. One of the greatest challenges during this pandemic has been the accurate identification of those who likely have COVID-19 and should self-quarantine. Abrupt loss of smell unaccompanied by a stuffy nose is one of the symptoms that differentiates COVID-19 from a cold or the flu. Next, one of the goals of the study was to determine whether or not smell testing and monitoring for smell loss are useful as a public health initiative. The idea was to be able to help people monitor their sense of smell and notify them that they should seek COVID-19 testing and also self-quarantine until receiving results if they reported a significant loss of smell. We also wanted to look into the usefulness of the 8-item Sensonic smell test, as it has not yet been used in a research setting involving COVID. By October, few participants in the study had tested positive for COVID-19. At this point, each of us then began to use the baseline data collected for those without COVID-19 to investigate variables such as gender differences, effects of medication, and age differences. Our findings regarding our individual investigations of the baseline data are presented in our individual presentations, while this presentation will focus on our shared research on COVID-19.
We had 118 participants from the population. There were 118 females and 70 males, ranging from the ages of 18 to 71. 81% of participants identified as white. Participants reported whether they had allergy symptoms, 21% said they did, and if they were taking medications, 47% said they were. All data was self-reported. Students, faculty, and staff were given an 8-item Sensonics smell test from Sensonics International, which contained 8 scratch and sniff odors. These odors were chocolate, strawberry, smoke, leather, soap, grape, onion, and natural gas. They also obtained a 3-item kit. This 3-item kit contained 0.5 milliliter vials of Olive Nation Pure Banana and Cherry Extract and Kirkland Pure Vanilla Extract. Participants were instructed to scratch and sniff the brown region on the 8-item Sensonics test for odors 1 through 8, where they then were to choose the option which the odor smells most like. The 3-item kit instructed participants to sniff each vial and choose which odor they thought it smelled most like as well. They reported their data on the Google form for each odor and also reported their intensity and pleasantness ratings on a scale of 1, extremely weak, to 9, very strong. Participants were reminded via text or email to test their smell every Sunday. If they had difficulty smelling the 3-item kit, they were instructed to take the 8-item Sensonics smell test and to fill out the Google form. Some participants also continued to complete the daily check-in, although many did not. Next.
For our results, the study was not successful as a public health initiative because of the lack of participation and consistent participation, such as participants not monitoring their symptoms or forgetting to report them on their daily check-in. Even though it was not successful, we still managed to obtain valuable data from a few participants, and it provided us with interesting results. We also didn't have enough pre- and post-COVID data, and it's important to know that the data was hot off the press, and here we'll be presenting descriptive analysis for a very small sample. In our results, we had 20 participants, with 10 that joined the study after testing positive for COVID-19 that took the smell test, which is the post-COVID group, and then we had 10 that took the smell test before they tested positive but didn't repeat testing, which is our pre-COVID group. It's important to note that the majority, but not all, COVID positive participants showed smell loss with the 8-item test, but all participants showed a reduction in their intensity ratings. The following table shows the differences between both groups, and if we start from left to right, we can see that the number of autocorrect intensity and pleasantness is higher for the pre-COVID than the post-COVID. Next. The following 3 graphs that I'm about to show are order by order analysis, and for all 3, we had 10 participants pre-COVID and 10 participants post-COVID. For the graphs, the following graph shows the average proportion correct, and on the y-axis is the proportion correct, and on the x-axis are the 8 orders. As you can see, there is a huge drop in proportion for all orders. It is also important to note that the post-COVID group has a high average because of the 3 participants that tested normal or got 6, 7, or 8 out of 8 correct, and this increased their averages. Next. The following graph shows the average intensity order ratings. On the y-axis is the intensity rating averages, and on the x-axis are the odors. There is an enormous drop for all odors. If we were to compare this graph with the previous one, you can tell that the post-COVID group had a bigger drop for this graph because those 3 participants that tested normal on the smell test had low intensity ratings but had better time with identifying the odors. Next. This last graph shows the average pleasantness ratings with pleasantness rating on the y-axis and the odors on the x-axis. Some odors are more pleasant than others, and a score of 5 is neutral pleasantness. The odors with high pleasantness like chocolate, strawberry, soap, and grape are the odors participants pre-COVID reported being pleasant. But when looking at the post-COVID participants, those 4 odors drop to a neutral or a score of 5. This means that some people find the odors more neutral with COVID-19 because they can't smell. When looking at the pre-COVID and post-COVID odors like smoke and leather, they stayed neutral regardless if the participant had COVID or not. But the odors like onion and natural gas, pre-COVID participants rated them as unpleasant, but when looking at the post-COVID participants, they reported it being neutral, meaning that participants that rate odors unpleasant, participants with COVID-19 will rate them neutral because they can't smell them or they are less intense. Next.
So we did find smell loss despite it not being reported on the daily check-in. 70% of participants with COVID-19 did demonstrate some level of smell dysfunction as per previous research. Both number of odors correct and intensity decreased while pleasantness rating shifted to being more neutral. As in previous research, we found that self-reported smell loss was not a reliable measure of smell function. Most of the participants with smell dysfunction did not report smell loss in the daily check-in, even though they did have demonstrable smell loss as seen using the 8-item sensonic smell test. Unfortunately, this project did not succeed in its public health initiative. There is no evidence that participants noticed smell loss leading to them getting a COVID-19 test, and only a small portion of the Carthage community participated. Next. Future studies that attempt to use smell loss as a predictor of COVID-19 infection should consider pairing this effort with an educational initiative to help those participating in the study better understand the potential benefits if procedures are followed more consistently. These benefits include the public health benefit of early detection leading to testing and isolation from the community, as well as the more personal benefit of being able to monitor your own health without relying solely on testing, which may not be available for various reasons. While we did attempt to do this in our study, it seems that participants still were not fully aware of the benefits smell testing may bring, and further reminders may be useful. The 8-item sensonic smell test has not been used in research previously. Now we know that it both works in a research setting and can be used multiple times. This test could be useful in future studies on olfaction due to the ease of use and its long life. And next semester, Dr. Cameron will continue looking at the data for participants who test positive for COVID-19, but the study as we've presented it this semester will not continue. Next. And that's all we have for you. Here are our references.